All right, we're in the book of James. Find it if you got a Bible. We're only going to look at a few things today. I want to give us an introduction, but I do want to talk and set everything up and give you a foundation of what's going on. Now, James is the brother of Jesus, half brother, obviously, because they don't share the same daddy, right? I mean, Jesus had his heavenly father, but James had Joseph, and so James is a younger brother of Jesus. He's late to the party. He was a disbeliever in Jesus, which is weird to me because you figure, I mean, you're growing up with Jesus. Did he ever do anything wrong? How many times, though, did James go, no, it was Jesus, right? How many times did he throw Jesus under the bus? Do you ever think those thoughts? Right? Because, I mean, I threw my sister under the bus several times. And Mom never believed me because she knew my sister was better than me. But still, I would try that thing, right? And so here, James was like, in fact, James showed up at one of Jesus' events and said, hey, we need to talk to him. We think he's crazy, right? This is James. This is real. Now, after the resurrection, James has an aha moment, like, oh, I guess my brother really is the Son of God. That's got to be weird. My imagination goes crazy. But James realizes that. But James is a quick learner. You cannot have grown up with Jesus and not have. See, since he was 12, he was teaching, right? Remember? He was at the temple. He was teaching at 12 years old. Caravan. His parents didn't know where he was. And they come back and they find him confounding the teachers there, right? So you know that he's teaching his brothers. We don't read in the scriptures because John says, I suppose if I wrote everything down that Jesus said, the whole world couldn't contain the library therein, right? So I got to know that James and Jesus had some pretty intimate conversations. And so James steps up and he starts leading the first church that was established. And it was the one in Jerusalem. And it was a brutal church. It was chaos because Jesus was resurrected. It was undeniable. They tried to make it something that it wasn't. Somebody stole his body, but yet there were over 500 people that saw him. There were the tombs open. We sang that, right? Tombs were open. Dead people were walking in Jerusalem that day. There's undeniable that something crazy happened. Earthquake happened. Veil torn in two. The temple was never going to be used again, right? All of that happened. Let's don't act like it didn't. And so now the Jews are very violently upset with Jesus and his followers. And so they're persecuting him. And that persecution was brutal. If you claimed to be of Jesus, we weren't shopping at your shop. And if you were in my home and you got baptized in the name of Jesus, I'm kicking you out. If I don't kill you first, I'm kicking you out. This is what was going on. This is turmoil, persecution. We don't see a lot of that here, but that's what's going on. In Nigeria right now, it's a bloodbath going on. I don't know if you keep up with what's happening to our Christian friends, but in Nigeria, it's a bloodbath. I can't remember the name of that. They call them radical Muslims. They're just Muslims. Listen, every religion that's not of Christianity is of the devil. You can mask it any way you want to. There's only two types of people. People who are children of the devil, people who are children of God. Every religion other than ours is false. You can deny that if you want and try to make nice, and that's all on you. I'm just telling you what my Bible says. And so every one of those is masked behind the evil one, who is seeking to steal, kill, and to destroy. And so that's what's happening. Anyway, I digress. But there's a lot of persecution. There's a lot of poverty because of that, because people lost their businesses. Nobody's buying from them anymore. And so these guys are scrambling around. So some of them are scattering and they're going somewhere else because persecution and poverty and family, they've been kicked out of their homes. They got nowhere to go, so they're just leaving. So it's a caravan of people leaving Jerusalem, and James is leading this church. And so that's what's going on. Now, he sounds, when we start reading this book together, you're going to see that he sounds a lot like Jesus. He sounds a lot like two men in the scriptures, Jesus and Solomon. He's going to give you just tons of wisdom, one-liners, powerful. There are 108 verses in the book of James. 60 of them are an imperative. You know what that means? 60 times he's telling you what you have to do, right? Like he's commanding you to do these things. Like consider it all joy isn't, hey, I think it'd be really cool if we decided to do this together and all of us were joyful. No. Consider it all joy, my brother, when you encounter his very trials. Why? Knowing the testing of your faith is producing endurance. Right? Bam. He's just going to hit you with it. How can you say something good about your brother and at the same time then spit out all these curses against him? What's wrong with you? What James is telling us to do is that we're going to remove hypocrisy. The man on the inside, And the man on the outside are going to start looking the same. And you're either going to look like God and Jesus, or you're going to look like the devil. But you ain't going to be the same, right? And so this is what he's saying. Man, it was 12 years ago when the last time I taught this. But I titled this book when I first began to break it down like we are, to living out loud. That's what he's calling us to do. To let what's on the outside match what's on the inside. Not faking it, right? I'm not talking about playing. I'm not talking about behaving so we look like it on the outside. I'm talking about becoming something, right? And so this is where he's going. He is removing hypocrisy from us, and he's going to tell us why it looks that way. Look, if you're not joyful through trials, then you're a hypocrite, and you're not trusting God like you ought to be trusting. Wow. Okay, that's kind of in my face, right? Same thing about the mouth. Same thing about money. Oh, you're whining about money? Well, why? Don't you have isn't God going to give you everything you need? Why? What is going on with you? It's going to hit hard. Some of us may want to decide to go to some other church for a season. I don't know. If you want the little milk toast stuff and we feel good, I sound terrible. I mean, if you want that pablum stuff and you get your little fix and you go back and get your fix the next Sunday, go there. But we're going to be getting hit in the face almost every week with this book. And I'm not doing the hitting, just so we're clear. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just going to tell you what it says. So this is going to drive us to live outwardly what we already know inwardly. Listen, we're all old Christians here. I don't mean old in age, but I mean, well, some. But I just mean we all know the truth, right? And so we know what's right. We just don't always want to do what's right. And James is like, yeah, but you will. Yo, but you are, right? So that's where we're going. Now, I've been teaching on Sunday nights at Simple Gatherings about a journey that God has us all on. Real quickly, I want to get it here because this is a book of becoming. If we're kind of giving one-liners like, what is this book? It is the book of becoming something, right? So we all start off in B-land. B-land is where we be. We exist because we're made in the image and likeness of God. We are the Imago Dei. I'm not an animal. I am not like the animal kingdom. I'm different than that. I am made in his image and his likeness, and so are you. I didn't evolve here. I didn't just somehow land here. I was planned by the creator of the universe before the foundation of the world. And he put me at the exact time and place in which I should be born. And so this day, I was made for, just like you were. And I am the Imago Dei. Tarnished because of what Adam's sin has become my sin. And so what that means is, this is how Solomon describes it in Ecclesiastes 3:11. God has set eternity in our heart, but we can't make it make sense to us, right? Why? Because we're in this darkness. And so we're all on this broad road heading to destruction. God has an off-ramp called the narrow way. Christ is the one who's standing there explaining to you how to belong to him. And so that's the second B in this journey that he has us on, right? He wants us to belong to him because right now we're a child of the devil. Everybody out there isn't a child of God. They're creations of God, but they're not children of God. The only ones that are children of God are you and me who've been adopted. Because right now, the world has an evil foster parent. And he's brutal to them. And he wants to kill, steal, and to destroy. And that's all he wants to do. You want to know why the world's crazy? Because they have that evil foster parent. And you've got God himself going on, but I want to be your father. And so he sent his son to die for you and me so that his freedom could be our freedom, right? And so when I made the decision to choose to trust Christ, to believe that he is who he says he is, and that he has done for me what he says he is, and I'm going to follow that, and I put all my eggs in that basket, now I belong. Now I'm a child of the King. I've been transformed. I will never be the same. I will never not be at peace with the God who saved me. I am always at peace with him. I will never not be forgiven. There will never be a straw that will break his back to go, nope, not today. That was the last one. You're out of here. No, that will never happen to me, ever. I walk in grace, lavished. Every morning there's a gift at the foot of my bed, and it's mercies, and it's new every morning. Are you getting this? This is truth. I'm just trying to make it. I am kind of preaching here, but I just want us to hear that sometimes we forget this stuff. And so this day is made for me, and I'm made for this day. He has work for me to do. I belong to him. I have the Holy Spirit, Christ in me, which is an internal GPS leading me true north. And this is what James is talking about, right? So what happens in the church is you get saved and we all high-five each other and somebody gets baptized and we celebrate and then life goes back to normal because nobody told us that we're supposed to become something. They're just telling us to behave. So every week we go hear a sermon about how we ought to behave, how we can live our best life now. And we hear all that garbage, right? That's not what God's after. God's after you to die to self so that he might become alive in you, so you become something. This is the journey that we're going to have in this book right here. And so we're becoming. You know what we're becoming? Like Jesus. And if you're not looking more like Jesus today than you did yesterday, you need to start paddling again. Because you put your oars up and the world's squeezing you into its mold. See, in the Christian life, we're upstream in a downstream world. James is letting us know what that downstream world looks like and what the upstream world looks like, and he's going to demand that we walk upstream. Is this clear? That's about as clear as I know how to make this book. Now, let's just jump into it, because you know what? Nothing will do that faster to you than trials will. Isn't that right? And we all have them, right? Man, that's about 4 weeks ago, I bit into something. I heard a pop. I think I broke my tooth. Now, I've had this happen before. Very frustrating. And so I had been telling the dentist, I think there's something wrong with this tooth. No, it's good. We checked out. It's good. I'm like, I think there's something. Anyway. So I go to the dentist, and he says, see if you can keep it in your mouth, and we're going to make this. He gave me two options, either this bridge or an implant. And I chose the implant, which meant there's this process. And so I had to go for 2.5 weeks not letting that tooth fall out that had broken up above the gum line. And so I'm pushing it up there, and I'm trying to be careful. All these guys think I'm like the manliest man on the planet because I'm carving my apple with a knife, and they go, when you see an old man carving an apple with a knife and eating off the blade, he's a man's man. So now they all think I'm a man's man. No, I'm not a man's man. I just don't want my tooth falling out. So Monday, they pulled that sucker out, and they gave me this weird little implant. I could take it out right now, and I'll look like your basic Alabama redneck. You may not think that's a trial, but to a proud old country boy like me, to have a tooth and I was scared to take. He said, keep it as long as you can, then you need to take it out and clean it. I'm like, well, I ain't doing it until after Sunday, because if I get it out and I can't fit it back in, I am not preaching. All right? And so I'm telling you this because I'm telling you, look, let trials happen. Don't diminish yours, right? This is silly to the rest of the world, right? I mean, half the world's toothless, but I don't want to be one of those. Okay? I mean, but it helps us grow. I've had a lot of thought process going on about this tooth and about my pride and about all of those things. Because I'm having conversations with people like this, holding my tooth in when I talk, because I'm scared to death it's going to come out. I got clients walking in the showroom, want me to show them a fireplace. Yeah, we got a really good one. Like I'm sucking my thumb like a 2-year-old, but I am not losing that tooth. And I'm having to go back to my desk going, Party, what is wrong with you, man? Why are you so vain? Now, this is why the book is incredible. He says, I want you to consider that. Oh, listen, let's quote it together. Not out loud. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials. That word various there in the language, interesting word, because it's the same word we get the word polka dot from, right? So it means just varied and sundry, just polka dots, just random things. So some are little and some are big, right? I mean, cancer, I would consider that kind of a big one, right? Any kind of health thing is a big one. Poverty, not having a job, not knowing that's a big one too, right? I mean, we can act like it's not, but man, it's hard to walk in this world and see everybody else with all the stuff. And I'm struggling trying to even piece things together to have one thing, and it looks like they got more than they need, right? You know what that's like? Now, when my kids got into Briarwood, I would tell them almost every week, listen, just for the record, for every $1 that your dad's making, those guys' dads are making 10. Just so we're clear. So when you want to do all the bells and whistles stuff they are, understand, I can't do it. So my kids drove old ratty cars. They all driving the big boy things. My kid's parking at the very end of the parking lot, showing up late so he doesn't have to step out of that 1973 Buick LeSabre while all the others are, in their big boy toys, right? And so that is a trial that forces us to get through things. And so he says, I want you to consider those things joyful. That's insanity. I'm just going to tell you straight up. That's crazy. I'm not going to go, woo, I got no tooth. Woo! I am rocky. And that's why James is going, oh no, but you know the truth. You know that you're going to consider all things joy. Because you know that for the joy set before Jesus, he endured the cross for you. See, he saw the end result, and he delighted in going through that trial. Why? Because he saw what was going to happen in my life. So all of a sudden now I've got to go, well, okay. Am I going to be joyful or am I not? Because joy is a choice. You get that? It is a choice. I can choose to be grumpy. I can choose to be just a jerk, or I can turn to be joyful. I can decide to be optimistic. Those things are my choice. But all of these trials come in various sizes. Why am I going to be joyful? Well, he tells me, consider all joy, my brother, when you encounter various trials. What's the next word? Anybody? Thank you. You know why I can be joyful? Because I know something. We forget it, but we know something. I know that God causes all things to work together for good to those that love God and are called according to his purpose. Right? I know that. I don't always live like that. Sometimes do you get mad at God? What are you thinking? Right? I can't tell how many times I've said, what are you thinking, God? I thought it when Harper Kate was being born. And she's going to have all these brain abnormalities. I'm like, what are you thinking? The son of mine that's already doubting you, you're going to give him that one? But it changed his life. I've seen it time and time again. And so we know something different than the rest of the world knows. We know things. This is what he says. Joy is when our eye is on the end game. That's the only way we can be joyful, right? Without that knowledge, I'm stuck in my feelings. And I don't know if you know it or not, but your feels aren't going to lead you where you want to go, right? If I lived on my feelings, I'm going to be a crazy man. And everybody around me will be crazy too. Because you're subject to whatever mood I jump into. And so all of a sudden now I'm all about my feels. I'm not about what I know, I'm about what I feel. And that's the problem with the church today. We want everybody to feel good. Well, that's not that. Jesus was concerned about you being holy. He was loving, but he wasn't about making you feel good. He spoke truth. He didn't coddle. He just lovingly spoke truth. And so this is what is going on here. So feels will rob you of the opportunity to walk in the place that God wants you to be, which ultimately is the place you and I want to be, right? When we're free in his freedom, it's the freest we'll ever be. If I'm free in my freedom, it's still prison. Because my freedom doesn't look like his freedom. My freedom looks like having money or having health or having all these things. His freedom is much deeper at a different layer than that. So I see things differently. So what kind of trial? I want you to think through some of your trials. What you got. Now, I don't want you to share them out loud necessarily, but I want you to be thinking through what some of those are. Right? I mean, we all have them. Gina, our sister-in-law, or Tammy's sister, just came through that. Some of us are still in those, right? Iris is, we're seeing an upswing, and we're hoping that that's going to happen. Sammy, you're right in the middle of it, right? All of us have these trials. And so what's yours? Because here's the thing. If we don't know what we ought to know about who God is, that he's for us, he's not against us, that we're more than conquerors through him who loved us, that he will take everything in my life and work it for my good, right? That he will give me strength, that he will make a way where there is no way. This is who he is. And if you don't know that, if you doubt that, then you're going to still live that hypocritical lie or just go off the edge, go screw all that. I'm just going to go live like the world, right? Those are the only options. And so this is where we have to get. Some of you probably dieting right now because summer's coming. You're dieting for one reason, because you know you're fat, right? And you know that if you don't diet, you're going to be fat, and you won't want to wear that bathing suit, and you won't want to get in the water, and you'll make that decision that every woman makes at some point where they just quit wearing bathing suits, right? But if you know something, right? If you know the end game, hey, I'll be healthier if I do this, well, then it makes it a little easier, doesn't it? You see what I'm saying? It's the knowing of that thing that keeps us plugging along. Same thing with sports, same thing with school, same thing with mastermind, all of those things, right? So here I'm going to tell you again, I'm going to tell you what you know because this is what he does. For we know, right? And I'm going to slip over into Paul, where he says, and I'm going to remind you again, God causes all things to work together. God had a choice to give us certain things and not give us certain things, to stop certain things from happening, to start certain things from happening, right? He is, after all, God of the universe. If he wants to do something, he can do it. Now, the things that happen to us are not the result of his necessary choosing it. It's allowing things to continue, right? Our world is broken, so our bodies are decaying. He didn't cause the cancer. He can stop it. He can allow it. He can do all kinds of things with it, right? This is what happens. And so, but we know that. And so we know that God will take a deficit and turn it into an asset. I know that, right? You know that. Volleyball tryouts this week, right? That's a big deal, right? You could make it. You might not, right? I mean, those are real deals. Here's what I know. Whether you make it or whether you don't, God's going to take that and turn it into an asset. No matter the outcome, that's what happens, right? We know that about ourselves. We know that nothing has come into our life that hasn't first been sifted by his hand, right? If it's there, it's for a purpose. And what's the purpose? To move me to perfection. That's what the rest of the verse says, right? We're going to persevere through this thing. We're going to go, no, I'm going to die, and I'm going to persevere because I know the end game, right? Now, we take that in the material realm. That's what it looks like, right? Like with this thing I've got going on with my leg. I mean, God very easily could have let that stone fall the other way if he wanted, but natural physics and everything else pushed it the way it was, and he didn't like move his finger to make it happen. He didn't push me out of the way. It happened. See, some trials are self-inflicted. So my buddy Trevor, he says, well, that was self-inflicted. You shouldn't have stepped on that and stepped over. Yeah, thanks for that encouragement. You're not the guy I want to go to next time I'm in trouble, right? But he would remind me of that all the time. And it's true. It was self-inflicted. I shouldn't have stepped on the stone and then stepped over it. But I was in a hurry. I'm trying to do some good. And so I did. Now, this is right after I had spoken on January the 1st about being in the moment. And so I had been praying through those things. I know I've shared this with you before. I'm just going to share it with you again because it matters. So when that happened with my leg, I remember very calmly going, that really looks pretty bad. I'm thinking I might pass out. I should probably call somebody. Chase is the one that I think is probably strong enough to handle, because it looks pretty gross. I can tell it's not where it ought to be. So I do that, and I called Jackson. He doesn't answer, so I finally called Tammy, and I said, hey, man, babe, I'm okay, but let me talk to Jackson. Because I don't want to tell her, hey, your husband's foot is dangling, and I'm not sure how long it's going to stay together, right? But so I worked through all that. Now, as the firefighters get there, after I made the call to get the firefighters there, the pallet was still in the way, and I didn't want them to have to carry me over, so this was more self-preservation than anything. But I calmly called my guys over, told them to get a forklift and start moving that thing out of the way. So as I'm doing that, people are gathering because they know something's going on, and and I'm smiling at them and I'm waving. It's very unnatural. You should normally be going, "Oh, this hurts so bad. What's wrong with me?" Right? You want to go off, but I wasn't at that moment because I had already been asking the Lord that I want to be in the moment, and I almost laughed at that, sitting there thinking, "Well, I'm going to be in the moment right now." I mean, right? I mean, like I'm not going anywhere, so I'm going to have to. And so I watched this go on, and literally that was the thought that came to my mind: is this is a deficit, God will turn into an asset. I'm telling you, it's a game changer how you see things. Now, I'm not talking about me right now, but I want you to hear this. Something happened that day, January 3rd, and I became somewhat of a rock star in our company because they were like, I've never seen anybody that calm in all my life. And there's anybody just still take command of a situation when you should be doing something else. And that's not normally me. I'm telling you that right away. I'm telling you that's not me. I mean, I am a control freak, but at that moment, it's just weird. People see me different now because they saw somebody with a trial not freaking out. And I'm not, again, please, I'm not taking credit for this. I'm simply telling you that as God was working these things in my life and I responded in a way that isn't normal to respond in those things, it's crazy the impact it has on people. And I realized that my trial that I went through, and I still am going through, is having an effect not just in me, but in others as well. And it's a crazy thing. But here's what I know. God is using it. Now, listen to what he says. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials. All right, so do you have your trial in your mind right now? Be joyful about that. Joyfully seeing the end game. That's all that is. That's what joy means, right? To see the end game in things. Happiness is my circumstances line up right. Joy is that I know the end game. And so I can be joyful in the midst of these things, right? Whether my circumstances lined up or not. And so he says this, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces, he says every trial is a test of your faith. Are you going to trust me or you're not? Everything that happens is going to come down to that. You trust him or don't you? Lost my job. Oh, man, wow. Trust him or don't you? And I got bad news from the doctor. Trust him or don't you? I broke my leg. Trust him or don't you? Right? This is what goes on. And then he says this, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. That's a great word. That means to persevere for the long haul. Now, so they gave me 24 therapy sessions. Crazy. Everybody said I've never had anybody with 24 therapy sessions, and I've been using them. And I go. I can't tell how many people have told me, well, you're going to feel the weather when now. I'm like, I don't even want to do that. No, I don't want to feel anything. I broke my back. I broke my face. I broke my heel. I don't feel the weather with those. I'm not planning on doing it with this one either. Do not say those words to me like that. Right? Now, I'm in therapy, and they're always say, you got to watch him because he's going to push. I'm pushing for one thing. I'm going to press through this because I got goals. There's an end game that I have. This isn't about Jesus at this point. I just have end games. I got end goals, right? My kids in Nashville, they ski. I want to ski with my grandkids. The ones here play basketball. I suck at it, but I still want to play with them, so I'm not quitting, right? My kids in Peachtree City, they like to go out of the country and they like to ride bikes, and I'm still riding bikes. In Jameson, I'll be 85 by the time he thinks about getting married, and I would like to be the guy that could perform the wedding. I might be 90, 95 and see Jackson's grandkids, and I'd like to do that. So I ain't ready to quit yet. So I'd get in those therapy things, and it's crazy. They make me do this tiptoe thing. Monday they did it, and I was finally able to do it. I had to carry a little stick. But I'm halfway doing that. I look goofy as can be, and all of a sudden I hear Michael Jackson's Thriller pop up. I'm like, hey, you're really going there, right? And so I'm doing this, trying to tiptoe, and they're having to, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I got this little girl, Drew. I'm trying to get her and Cole hooked together. She's 17, cute little girl. She's a ballerina, and she just works there to clean tables. But we've created this relationship. She likes me because I'm an old guy who just, whatever. And so I have to stand on one foot, and we have to play pitch together. And she just laughs hysterically at me. She doesn't care. And then she's going to give me the ballerina thing. Well, if you would cup your toe, put your toe down, and you'd lift this side. And so I'm doing all that, and it's working. I'm like, I'm from a 17-year-old punk girl, ballerina. But you know what? I'm going to keep doing it. Now I practice at home in the mirror. Because I'm not going to let the girl laugh at me. So now I'm here trying to practice pitching balls. Why? Because I have pride in me, but I'm not quitting. I realize I am having way too much fun with this. But I want you to understand something. There's something that's happening this was the first week I have been pain-free in my leg since it broke it. And I would tell you my pain level was over a 5, maybe sometimes over a 7 for most of that. You know why it's getting that way? Because there's endurance being built up in that leg now. Because my little friend Drew, who's teaching me how to stand on one leg and pass a ball, and my buddies who play Thriller while I'm tiptoeing around, right? There's something happening, and I'm getting stronger, and this leg is getting better, and I am going to run, and I am going to ski, and I'm going to ride bikes, and I'm going to do those things. Why? And I'm excited about it. They go, you get more excited about therapy than anybody in the world because I'm going somewhere, right? I'm not giving up. And so this is what I'm telling you about trials in your life right now. I don't know what yours are. Maybe it's acne. Maybe it's old age. Maybe it's baldness. Maybe it's cancer. Whatever it is, it don't matter. I'm going to do this. I'm going to consider it joy, and I'm going to endure. I ain't quitting on it. I'm going to get up, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever the Lord tells me to do. I'm going to do it. Right? This is the message, and I don't even know where I am in my notes right now. I'm just telling you. This is what's going on. And let endurance have its perfect result, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. What's he saying there? That you may be mature, that you may be whole, that you would quit being the hypocrite, that you would be on the outside what you are on the inside. That's the whole point of trials, to make us look like Jesus, to become something. So we're not going to waste them. So I want you to process what's happening in your life right now. Like, what are you learning? What are you seeing? What are you knowing? What wisdom are you gaining? What feeling are you feeling because of these trials? I mean, my tooth has made me work on my pride just a little bit. Right? This leg has caused me to think long term about what is it that you really want out of this life? Because this is the only body I'm going to get. And so if I wear it out and I don't take care of it, I may not live to do Jameson's wedding, but I want to. And so these are thoughts that are going on in my life. How you respond to your trials determines what you become. I got one verse for you. Proverbs 24:16. A righteous man may fall 7 times. He still gets up. Right? It don't matter, right? Here's a statement I've always told my kids. We're not down. I'm either up or I'm getting up. That's it. I ain't never down. I'm either up or getting up. I can't tell you how many times I've had to get up. Bankruptcy is one of those things you get up from. It's an embarrassing trial in itself. Oh, you don't even know how to take care of your money or your family. Well, yep, kind of. But I'm working at it, right? Betrayal. Those are brutal. That's a brutal trial to go through. Because the only people that betray you are those that love you. Have people that you love. So Tammy and I have a statement now, people love you till they don't. I'm just so used to that. I'm used to people quitting on us. And so it's okay. If y'all quit on us, that's okay. I mean, I love you anyway. But people love you until they don't. I learned that lesson in trials. So therefore, my life isn't dependent on how you see me. Because if it's on that, I'm going to be the biggest hypocrite on the planet. This is the message that James has for us. And it's only going to get better. All right. Oh, next week, I'll tell you about that in a minute. We're not having church. I got to go take care of my grandbabies in Peachtree City, but I'll tell you that in a minute. Let's just think about this song, the goodness of God, because sometimes we don't think that when it comes to trials, but I want us to hear it.